Thanks for joining us on Power Lunch. This is Bloomberg Quint. I'm Harsha Subramaniam.
Good afternoon. I'm Meera Dugal. Let's get to the headlines. Indian equity benchmarks gave up morning gains to trade marginally lower. Nifty Bank 2 falls after hitting an all-time high.
Jet Airways suspends operations after running out of working capital, says lenders refuse to release emergency funding. The stock is down 26%.
Mahindra & Mahindra ties up with Ford for the development, manufacture and supply of a new mid-sized SUV.
Reliance Industries may sell around 25% stake in its refining unit to Aramco, and Adnoc, reports Bloomberg. The petchem to telecom giant is expected to report a drop in its profit for the first time in 17 quarters today.
And Mindtree's shareholders stand to get 27 rupees per share after the board approves an interim dividend, proposes 2 other payouts to reward shareholders.
And polling is underway in 95 constituencies across 13 states in phase 2 of elections.
Let's start with the markets. Darshan is here with us. Afternoon, Darshan.
Good afternoon. Not a very good day as far as the markets are concerned. After hitting a new high on the Bank Nifty, it's managed to cool down by almost 200 points. The Sensex, the Nifty, all of them are trading with losses. If you're looking at the mid-cap and small-cap, over the past few days, they have been under pressure and they continue to be under pressure. So the mid-cap and small-cap are seeing much more sharper cuts as far as trade is concerned. The only index which is probably holding on and doing well is the oil and gas industry index, and that is only on account of the move that we've seen on Reliance, back on the news that you just spoke about. Autos also seem to be rather stable, but the metal pack, the PSU banking pack, the pharma pack, all of them are seeing selling pressure that's coming into trade today. The move continues in Tata Motors. That probably is the stock of the day, up another 3% in trade. So from the lows recently, it's moved up almost 50%. Reliance Industries is the other one in which news of Aramco picking up stake is doing rounds. It was reported and the results are there today. Again, Max Financial reports indicating that Axis Bank may pick up some stake in the subsidiary, and that has caused the stock to move in much higher. Apart from it, Wipro, despite poor set of numbers, the buyback providing a little bit of support. What is not doing well, Jet Airways for one is down 27% post halting of operations, so that is down in trade. The NBFC space is down in trade, so you have counters like the Dewan Housings and the Indiabulls Housing Finance of the world. All of them are down in trade, and ADAG as a pack in particular is not doing well. So you have Reliance Power, Reliance Capital, all of them actually down in today's trade.
Darshan, thank you for that. That's the markets for you. With focus on Jet Airways. Jet Airways suspends all operations starting today after the cash-strapped carrier failed to secure a bailout from lenders. Remember, the airline had already stopped international flights when lessors started grounding aircraft. Now, Jet says it has run out of money to keep any operations going. Vishwanath is here with us to fill us in with the latest.
Run out of money. That's the bottom line here. But yes, so last night they put out a statement to the stock exchanges where Jet Airways said that they are going to stop all operations because interim funding that they had sought from banks was not forthcoming. Now, what we do know is that on the 25th of March, the lenders had agreed to infuse about 1,500 crore worth of urgent, immediate debt support. Since then, they did not do that at all. Later on, of course, all of this was part of a broader resolution plan that the lenders had implemented under the RBI's February 12th circular. Now, apart from the delays in general to infuse that money, the Supreme Court also struck down that February 12th circular, which means the lenders had no guidelines or any kind of framework within which they could infuse that money. They held back on that decision. We got to know last week that finally the lenders have decided not to give the money at all. On Monday, there was a meeting between the SBI chairman as well as representatives from the employees at Jet Airways, and then they had a meeting of their own, the lending consortium, and finally they decided that they don't want to infuse this money right now. They would much rather wait for the bidding process that SBI had initiated earlier this month to be completed and only then see if there's a new bidder. Now, we reported this earlier. The reason they did not do this was because of concerns around some kind of prosecution that may come from investigative agencies later in the future. In the past, we've seen Kingfisher Airlines in that case and what has happened to IDBI officials there. So the lenders were looking for some kind of an official or unofficial go-ahead from the government, saying that if they were to infuse this money, they would not face unnecessary prosecution. That, it seems, that hasn't reached the lenders. on the 8th of April, SBI had started the whole sale process for Jet Airways, majority stake in the airline. 6 bidders had shown initial interest. Later on, we got to know that Naresh Goyal, who is one of the parties, has backed out. Redcliffe Capital, which is another bidder in the fray, they have also backed out of the process. So the remaining 4, TPG, NIIF, Etihad, as well as Indigo Partners, were issued bid documents on the 16th. They are now doing their due diligence. On the 10th of May, this deadline for submitting the final bids ends. We are yet to find out whether any of these 4 bidders are actually going to submit a bid for Jet Airways. But what we do know is that the lenders are waiting for that signal to come through. If bidders don't turn up on the 10th of May, not sure what exactly they're going to do, but they will have to take some form of action to recover the funds in the airline. Jet Airways has about 16 planes that it owns, some land that it owns. How exactly this is going to all take place is something that we still need to find out. But earlier today we had a conversation with Mr. Parvez Damania of he's an aviation expert and a former promoter of Damania Airways. He was pointing out that the way the lenders have dealt with it was problematic from the beginning, and probably that could have led to the fiasco that is we're seeing now at Jet Airways.
Vijay Mallya kept saying continuously over a period of time, we are going to restart, we are going to restart, we are going to restart. The staff kept coming to office and ultimately couldn't restart it. See, once an airline is shut down, getting the whole system started, what I want to understand is how many aircrafts the Jet had or leased are still with Jet. We don't know anything, but I know a fact that a lot of leasing companies have either taken the aircrafts back or given it to other airlines in India.
Right. Mr. Bane, also one other question. What does this mean for the aviation sector as a whole? Now, one major airline has gone away.
I think it's a great setback. It's a very big setback and not in the positive direction. And it's going to take substantial time for the sector to recover out of all this. Of course, it's a huge, huge, huge gain for the present airlines in India. Now I think Indigo will move very fast on a great expansion plan. So I think but it's very terrible for the consumer, because now the consumer is going to end up paying a fortune for their flights.
All right, let's move on. Mahindra & Mahindra has partnered with Ford for a new mid-sized SUV. The 10-year agreement covers development, manufacture and supply of the vehicle. Nishant Sharma joins us with more. Nishant.
Well, right, Ira, Mahindra and Ford, a joint partnership to manufacture mid-size sports utility vehicle. Now, as part of the exchange filings, Ford will be responsible for production and supply of these vehicles, and will be putting in incurring costs for the development of those vehicles, which as per the filings they estimate to be around 680 crores. Now this agreement, which is going to be for a period of 10 years, will also include as part of it, Ford will develop, manufacture and supplies vehicles to Mahindra & Mahindra, and that will also include Mahindra's common platform and powertrain. Now Mahindra & Mahindra explain the rationale behind this partnership, that such joint ventures will help both the parties to lower the production costs and also achieve economies at scale.
Nishant, thanks for that. Let's talk about Mindtree now. Mindtree shareholders should be a happy lot. The board has decided to pay a total dividend of 27 rupees per share, a large chunk of which will come up for shareholder approval in the next AGM. This also comes approximately a month before L&T makes an open offer for the company. So does the dividend payout change things for L&T? Agam Vakil is standing by to take us through some of those details. Agam.
Well, on the event of Mindtree announcing its fourth quarter and FY19 earnings, it's also laid out a very interesting plan of dividends. Firstly, its board has approved an interim dividend of 3 rupees per share, and the record date for this is set on the 27th of April. And the board has also proposed 2 dividends. One is a special dividend of 20 rupees per share and another final dividend of 4 rupees per share, which is going to be taken up in the upcoming annual general meeting, where the management has indicated will be somewhere around June, July. Now, the reason why this is interesting is because the last time we saw a reasonably large dividend payout was at 10 rupees per share, and this was back in 2015. It also comes during very interesting circumstances, given that Mindtree had actually called off a buyback very recently following L&T's hostile bid for the company. Now, this total outgo for the dividends stands at around 443 odd crores, and if you actually consider the dividend distribution tax as well of around 90 crores added to this, it comes to roughly around 550 crores. The company has also suggested that it has cash of as much as 1,050 crores on its books, which means that if it does go ahead and pay out these dividends, it will mean half the cash as things stand on its balance sheet currently. Now, this does lead to a few very interesting questions when it comes to the circumstances with respect to L&T and Mindtree. Firstly, with respect to Mindtree, well, how will the investors of Mindtree react to this hefty dividend? Two, to what extent has the recent up move in Mindtree already factored in this dividend? And three, will this prompt Larsen & Toubro to, perhaps reconsider its open offer price, either to factor in this cost of cash that will move out, or perhaps even to further sweeten the deal? These are the few questions that certainly will play out not only on the investors' minds, but as well as the management's too.
Agam also fills us in on quarterly earnings from the company.
Well, so as far as the earnings for this particular quarter go, Mindtree has come in largely in line with consensus, considering its revenues rose around 2.9% sequentially. We're also looking at a significant drop in margins because of several factors, coming in at around 12.9% against 13.6%. Net profit, however, coming to 198 crores, up 3.7% sequentially. Again, when it comes to revenues and profitability in line, there has been a little bit of a miss when it comes to margins on account of various issues. Well, one of them, of course, is currency, and also, higher people's costs that have, had an impact on operating margins for this particular quarter. In terms of outlook, the company suggests that it looks to grow in a lower mid to a mid-teens in terms of revenues, and it is also looking to improve its operating margins by as much as 100 basis points. On the whole, a fairly stable quarter for Mindtree. No fireworks here, and in line with consensus expectations.
Thanks for that. We also spoke to Mindtree CFO Pradeep Menon. He argues that the dividend offer has nothing to do with L&T's open offer. Claims it's just a result of the company's strong financials. Listen.
We are recommending to the shareholders at the AGM, which will be, normally we have our AGM in July. So this has got, if you go by the timelines of the open offer, which is in May, as published by L&T. So this has got nothing to do with that. This is all about the performance of the company, a landmark set of financials. And in the 20th year of our, since we have been brought into existence, and that is the context of this.
Reliance Industries' bottom line may decline for the first time in 17 quarters, mainly due to the anticipated drop in refining margins. Somit Sarkar joins us with what analysts are expecting. Somit.
So I'll start off with the headline numbers of Reliance Industries for the standalone business. Now, if you see compared to last quarter, the revenue is expected to be expected to drop by nearly 7%, while the EBITDA is expected to decline by nearly 6%. Now, this would be the third consecutive drop in Reliance Industries' standalone EBITDA. Margins are expected to remain largely stable at close to 14.7%, while the net profit of the company is expected to decline by nearly 5%. Now, this would be the first drop for Reliance Industries' standalone net profit in the last 17 quarters. So what will lead to this fall? Well, I'll start off with the refining segment first. Now, the gross refining margin, that is expected to be lower by nearly 9% to close to $8 per barrel, and that is because of the global weakness seen. And you can see that the Singapore gross refining margin, that is the Asian benchmark, that also averaged lower at around $3.2 per barrel due to excess inventory in the market and because of a lower demand in the Asian market. However, compared to the global benchmark, that is the Singapore GRM, Reliance Industries GRM is expected to be better. In fact, its premium to the Singapore gross refining margin is expected to expand to $4.8 per barrel, and that is because of the lower LNG prices seen in Asia. Now, overall, because of the lower GRMs and lower throughput, the refining segment is expected to be weak for Reliance Industries. Now, throughput is expected to be lower because of a plant shutdown and because of lower demand in the Asian market. Now, for the petrochemical business, if you see, that also is expected to report a weak set of numbers. Now, after reporting a strong set of numbers for the last 8 quarters, quarters. In Q4, the earnings for this segment is expected to decline because of a weak pricing environment. Now, if you see the petchem earnings, they're expected to decline because the polythene prices were weak in the segment because of short-term oversupply in the market, and also because of weak polyester spreads. Now, among the other factors, if you see the upstream segment, now that is expected to be weak because of a weak production numbers, and on the consolidated basis, if you see the company's interest cost, that is expected to be flat compared to last year because of a stronger rupee, while a higher contribution from Jio and retail will help the company offset the impact of lower energy business. Now, key things to watch out for from Reliance Industries earnings would include the update on the status of the petcoke gasifier project, along with that the margin outlook of the company in refinery and petchem segment, and any additional updates on the InvIT structure and valuation of the Jio fiber and tower assets would be a keen thing to watch out for from Reliance Industries earning today.
Broadly, what is the market anticipating from Jio?
For Jio, if you see, the revenues are expected to be higher by nearly 10%, EBITDA is expected to grow by nearly 11%, while margins are expected to improve marginally to 39.4%, while the net profit, that is expected to rise by nearly 17%. Now, the key number for Reliance Jio, that is the average revenue per user, that is expected to come in at around 129 rupees. Now, this will be the 6th consecutive decline in Reliance Jio's ARPU, and that is because of higher customers coming at lower rentals. Now, if you see, overall Jio's earnings are expected to increase because of the strong subscriber additions. Now, subscriber base for the company at the end of March is expected to be around 31 crore as against 28 crore in the December ended quarter. But as you can see in this chart, the strong subscriber addition has been diluting the company's average revenue per user. So that's the reason the average revenue per user is expected to come in at 129. Lastly, if you see the margins, that would see a slight expansion because of the lower fuel cost in the fourth quarter of financial year 2019. Lastly, key things to watch out for from Reliance Jio earnings would include management commentary on Jio phone offtake, any commentary on tariff hikes, their capital expenditure plans for financial year 2020, and any commentary on the rollout of home broadband business would be keen things to watch out for from Reliance Jio earnings today.
Thanks so much for that, Somit. We'll stay with Reliance Industries. The company is considering selling as much as 25% of its refining business. The Mukesh Ambani-owned company is said to be in talks with investors, including Saudi Aramco and Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. Anthony of Bloomberg News joins us with what he's picked up.
That's right. So Reliance is in talks with two Middle Eastern companies for a stake sale in their petroleum and refining business. The talks are still at early stage. Then there seems to be differences regarding the valuations which Reliance is seeking and what Aramco or Adnoc is willing to pay. This makes perfect. Reliance wants to do this as part of the attempts to pay the debt, which stands at around 32 billion US right now. While it makes sense for the Aramco and Adnoc because they want to get into different segments of the entire refining and marketing process beyond what they are currently presented.
Interesting. That let's wait and see how this plays out. A potential big deal between Reliance and Saudi Aramco. All right, let's talk about politics now and elections. Elections are in the works, and we're going to be focusing on Tamil Nadu. Remember, there are about 8 seats. Phase 2 of polling is underway in 95 seats across the country. In the state of Tamil Nadu, the stage is set for a mass electoral battle. The first major poll after the demise of Dravidian stalwarts Jayalalitha and Karunanidhi. Taking guard this time are two grand alliances, one led by the ADMK and the BJP on one hand, and the other by the DMK and the Congress on one side. They will be going head to head, as I mentioned, in 38 parliamentary seats in Tamil Nadu. Remember, it was 39, but Vellore has been cancelled. But this is just half the story. An equally important by-election battle is taking place in 18 assembly constituencies that could potentially unseat the incumbent AIADMK government in the state. So this is how the entire state is looking. We're going to be joined by Narayan Lakshman, Associate Editor of The Hindu, on the phone line. We're also going to be joined by Dhanya Rajendran, Editor-in-Chief of the News Minute. Narayan, thank you so much for joining in. How would you describe the contest this time? A few months ago, this was pitched as a sweep for the DMK. But in the last couple of weeks, you get the feeling that the AIADMK is putting up a formidable fight.
That's absolutely right. I think they are coming back from a position of what many consider to be weakness initially, because, as you know, since the demise of Jayalalitha, the former chief minister, the party itself was fragmented internally, and the faction that then became the AMMK under TTV Dinakaran and the influence of the Sasikala clan, that further weakened the prospects of the AIADMK. So they were coming from a position of being an underdog, but having made this alliance with the BJP in particular, which is not yet a force in Tamil Nadu, but obviously a very major force at the national level, they have come back. They've risen in the ranks of the parties that can mount a credible challenge. And of course, they do still have a remnant of a network that was there when Jayalalitha was holding the reins. The question for them now is, will E. Palaniswamy be able to command that kind of control over his own party cadre and mobilize their supporters across the state in a manner that delivers results on the ground? And there they will face challenges from the AMMK. Of course, they will face very severe challenges from the DMK, which is always in pole position. And so it will really vary a lot depending on which constituencies you're looking at going forward.
Dhanya Rajendra from the News Minute also joins in. Dhanya, thanks so much for joining in. How would you describe these elections or this contest? Is this momentum in favor of the DMK Congress, or do you think this is going to be a close call?
No, I think the momentum is definitely in favor of the DMK. There are quite a few factors which contribute to it. One is, of course, the anti-incumbency against the state government. There is the anti-incumbency against the central government. And, of course, Narendra Modi himself, which I think is unique to Tamil Nadu in many ways. There are a couple of other factors. For example, the AIDMK vote, we think, may get split by TTV Dinakaran's AMMK. That could also work in favor of the DMK, while the DMK's root vote, the core vote does not change. The AIDMK's vote can get split between them and the AMMK. So all that together, I think the situation is definitely favorable for the DMK. And for the party itself, it's not just about the 38 seats which are going to polls, right? It's also about the 22 by-polls which are taking place simultaneously. So on May 23rd, if the DMK can actually manage to win all those 22 by-poll constituencies, then they can topple the government. So for Tamil Nadu, these elections has a really greater implication. And for Stalin, I guess, if he is not able to convert all that is going in favor of his party into actually winning majority of the seats, I think that would reflect really badly on Stalin.
Narayan, I'm going to come to Stalin in just a moment, but Narayan, the point about AMMK and TTV Dinakaran factor, would he at best be a spoiler for the ADMK, or will his support actually translate into seats?
He will certainly be a spoiler for the AIADMK. I agree with what Dhanya just said as well. I think there are several spoilers. Kamal Hassan's party, while it's weak, he has some star power and he's thrown himself in the play. There are other parties as well, smaller parties competing. So yes, and given that there are multiple claimants to the AIADMK's core vote, and the AIADMK itself is in a weaker position than it was in 2016 or when Jayalalitha was around, that suggests that their vote will be eroded. There's no doubt about that. Now, the question is, which of these parties who are competing this time will be able to convince the people that they can deliver some measure of good governance? Because honestly, that is the missing sort of a dimension of the whole dialogue around this election, which is governing a state which has faced innumerable problems and controversies. You can look at the Sterlite issue in Thoothukudi. You can talk about drinking water crisis. You can talk about so many things. The overall atmosphere of, which has not been conducive to industries and industries fleeing to neighboring states. All of this matters to the people of Tamil Nadu in the future. And really the question is, can either of these parties, both of which face considerable weaknesses or, sort of chinks in their armor, can they convince the people, or have they already convinced the people that they are the ones who can deliver a solid governance agenda? I think that is going to be the thing that is playing on a lot of people's mind, because since that power vacuum has emerged, the demise of Jayalalitha and Karunanidhi, the people of this state for the first time have a chance to actually vote on policy issues. And I think we could be witnessing a shift in that regard.
Dhanya, what is the DMK really going to the people? Is the DMK raising these issues, or is the DMK, cornering, using the double anti-incumbency factor? What is, Stalin going to the people? At the end of the day, this is an election for the DMK to win, isn't it?
Well, Well, yes, this is definitely an election where Stalin has to prove that he can swing the voters, because in Tamil Nadu, 80% of elections we have seen the electorate either going in one direction or the other. Either of the Dravidian parties have always swept the polls. So are we going to see a repeat this time? Can Stalin manage that? The DMK, of course, has been asking for votes mainly on two plans. One is they are saying that the Edappadi Palaniswamy government is a corrupt one. And of course, they are taking up the Thoothukudi Sterlite killings, the Salem highway project, the Salem-Chennai expressway, which has now been stayed by the Madras High Court. They are talking about pollution, rampant industrialization, and many other issues which the DMK has been talking about against the state government. On the other hand, the DMK is also saying that this vote for a DMK is also a vote against Narendra Modi and the central government, which has really done damage to federalism, to the concept of federalism in the country. They are, of course, raking up the issue of NEET. They have promised in their manifesto that they will do away with NEET. So the DMK is saying that if you vote for the AIDMK, that also necessarily means you vote for Narendra Modi. And in that way, you're endorsing the central government policies of demonetization, of having an examination like NEET. So DMK has been asking for votes at two different levels, one against the AIDMK and one against the BJP.
Narayan, that's the interesting point here. I understand the need for the BJP to tie up with the ADMK. The ADMK, at the end of the day, had about 37 seats last time. It's still a formidable force in Tamil Nadu. But the Modi government hasn't been seen favorably by the people of Tamil Nadu at all. So why does the AIADMK need the BJP in this context?
Well, that is the billion-dollar question here, because basically you have Tamil Nadu now in a position where its very politics is up for grabs. So in one sense, these two Dravidian major parties have had the sort of a vice-like grip over the politics of the state since 1967, when the Congress was unseated from power. And they have permanently managed to control the reins of power through their own grassroots sort of networking and campaigning and mobilizing abilities. Now, for the first time, you're seeing a change in that in the absence of these two leaders. And at the same time, you have to remember the context of the Dravidian movement itself, which in its early radical days in the 50s and 60s was seen as a movement that was against sort of North Indian politics, Hinduism even, or rather Hindutva politics, against the North, the influence of the South, Hindi imposition, all of these issues were there. Now, that format or the emphasis of the Dravidian movement has certainly changed a lot over the past number of decades. And today it is far more accommodating of a number of issues. But at the same time, it is a bit of an acid test for the BJP and Mr. Modi's brand of politics to see whether a state like Tamil Nadu is now receptive to those kinds of ideas, political and collective ideas. And I think this election will tell us a lot about it because, as Danya mentioned, there are some issues such as concrete issues on the ground, such as NEET and so forth. It can be taken as a referendum on demonetization. But at the same time, it is also about what do the people of this state think about Hindutva politics, about Hindu-Muslim conflicts, about the questions of communalism, or secularism? What does this mean to the people of Tamil Nadu? We can read a lot into these results, and I do think that the BJP in particular will be watching very closely to see whether its strategies to try and build inroads into the state on the back of the AIADMK has been successful or not.
So you also have a bunch of smaller parties, an influential one at that. There is Vijayakant's DMDK, there is Ramadas's PMK. Do they continue to have sway over their vote banks, or do you think that's up for grabs?
No, I think these parties have shrunk in the last few years. For example, Vijayakant's DMDK, which debuted with around 10% vote percentage, has really dwindled its presence in most constituencies. So as far as the PMK is concerned, they are in the one-year belt. The DMK is relevant only in certain constituencies. The same applies to a lot of other smaller parties which are there in both these alliances, the VCK, the MDMK, etc. So none of these parties now can actually confidently say that they can win a seat if they stand alone. And that applies to the BJP and the Congress as well. Both the national parties have to piggyback on the Dravidian parties like the AIDMK and the DMK to win a single seat in Tamil Nadu. So the point is all the other parties have actually gone down as far as voting percentages are concerned. They do not have second-rung leaders. Their main leaders, their charisma is waning out. So that is the same across parties in Tamil Nadu, which is why the alliance matters, the arithmetic of the alliance matters. And since I just want to answer a little bit quickly on what you asked last time, I mean, the last question that you asked, why would the AIDMK feel compelled to go with the BJP? That's really something which no one has an answer for, including the AIDMK leaders. When the alliance talks happened, a lot of AIDMK leaders were against such an alliance because they knew that going with the BJP may work against them. I would say first, it's a lack of confidence within the AIDMK leaders. You don't have someone like a Jayalalitha who's going to tell the BJP, I don't want to be part of your alliance. I remember clearly in 2009 and 2014, there was a lot of pressure on Jayalalitha to join the BJP's alliance, but she said no, she's not going to join the alliance. She believed that she would perform well by her own. So that confidence is missing in the current crop of leaders. The second thing is the fear that if the BJP comes back to power and the AIDMK had not been in alliance with them, then the BJP would use departments like the Income Tax Department or the ED, etc., to actually go behind these leaders. That's really the fear, I think, which drove a lot of AIDMK leaders to agree for the alliance.
Dhanya Rajendran, Narayan Lakshman, many thanks indeed for joining us with your perspective. The battle is on in Tamil Nadu. If you have been, thank you so much indeed for watching.
What is the meaning?